or let me download that customer set and let me actually go and target them, those email addresses, and create lookalike audiences on Facebook and on social and all of that, right? So all of that, what we know, how we shopper-based marketing, right, and lifecycle-based marketing is what I'd like to call it within the e-commerce space. You could actually do that on Amazon now.
Today's episode is incredibly valuable for any Amazon sellers who want to use data to dominate Prime Day and boost profits year-round. I'm joined by Ali Babul, Chief Evangelist at Trellis, with over 10 years helping brands grow through smart advertising strategies. In this session, we break down Amazon Marketing Cloud, or AMC, and how sellers can use this powerful tool to beat the competition. Ali explains what AMC is and how to access it, reveals targeting strategies for converting hesitant customers and Prime Day window shoppers, and shares real case studies showing how AMC can cut customer acquisition costs in half. We also uncover understanding your customer's true buying journey, handling the challenging Prime Day period when sales drop, and creating your own unique advertising playbook instead of copying competitors. If you're dealing with rising ad costs, confused about Amazon's data, or looking to stand out in a crowded marketplace, you won't want to miss Ali's insights. Let's jump into the session. With your extensive background in revenue growth, you have a unique perspective in Amazon's marketplace. So what are you seeing like right now as the biggest data-driven opportunity for sellers approaching this year's Prime Day that most are maybe not taking advantage of?
Yeah, I think we're in the last couple of years, I think that we've seen a lot of like the talk of AMC. Everyone has an Amazon ads manager or a partner manager, let's call it, that's talking to them about AMC and the power that it can unlock and all of that. And I think you're seeing a lot more, and I'm definitely seeing that from our standpoint, even with Trellis here, is like the adoption of AMC and being able to leverage that data set. And I think we're at the nascency of that. And so what that means then is that people aren't thinking about right now of how to leverage AMC for day to day, right? How to manage their ads. What's the integration of that? And I talk a lot about that. I talk about a lot about the opportunity, and we'll get more into that here. But a lot of that, the opportunity that I think that people are sleeping on is how to leverage it for Prime Day and incorporating it into their Prime Day planning and their Prime Day strategies to drive the KPIs that they're looking for, right? And more often than not, everyone's looking for that's like the let's call it the mecca of sales events for all of us, right? And where we actually see success and leading us into out of the first half of the year, into the back half of the year, right? Into our next, let's call it Prime Day 2, but big deal days or whatnot that happen, but also then into Christmas as well, right? Those are kind of the biggest sales events that happen for a lot of our brands. And so the opportunity that's on the table right now is how do you leverage data from AMC and the capacity and capabilities of AMC to inform and also drive more effective advertising strategies for your tentpole events.
Okay. And yeah, just to maybe dive a little or back up a second, like, could you explain a little bit more about what exactly AMC is for our audience?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and for those that have heard of it, I think everyone's heard of the terms at this point, right? AMC as a whole, Amazon Marketing Cloud. I think everyone's still figuring out what to do with it. And what I mean by that, and to give that context as well, like Amazon Marketing Cloud, it's given us it started as a vehicle as to show attribution from DSP, right? How's it working out? We can get into DSP as a separate component in here as well, but really impression based on and off Amazon placements, right? And so Amazon Marketing Cloud really gets you all of that data, right? We know what all of our ad data is. We know all the events that happen. We know when we get a sale and attribute it back to a campaign. With AMC, you essentially have imagine that as a huge database, right? Just a big spreadsheet of all this data. Now add a column of a unique identifier to know what each customer is doing. We don't know who that customer is, but we know when it's an individual customer or a unique customer or not. And so now if I can take all that data that I have, couple that with attributing it back to customers and what they're doing, you start getting a deeper level or deeper sense of how customers are interacting with your products, interacting with your ads, whether they're adding it to cart or abandoning it, or they're buying it, which campaigns did they touch first to eventually buy off of another campaign as well. And you start getting a very clear picture as to how consumers and shoppers are navigating their own journey towards you and what that shopper journey is for yourself. right? And AMC really kind of helps unlock that data because it has that capacity or really the ability to what that unique identifier is, right? Who that user is, and giving that to us as brand managers, as brand owners, as PPC experts, right? And that's kind of the trueness of what it is. But if we take it one step further, now what can I do with that, right? If Nicholas, I'm going to ask you this: have you ever done like email marketing or any kind of like social marketing? Let's go with in that way, or D2C marketing,
For sure. Yeah, mostly B2B, but yeah, for sure.
right? And in that world, and you know this to be true, like in that world, you end up running into a scenario where it's like, actually, for my emails, all the people that have bought are my highest value customers. Let me create this email campaign and nurture them. Or let me download that customer set and let me actually go and target them, those email addresses, and create lookalike audiences on Facebook and on social and all of that. Right. So all of that, what we know, how we shopper-based marketing, right, and lifecycle-based marketing is what I'd like to call it within the e-commerce space. You could actually do that on Amazon now, right? That I can say, who are the highest value customers for me? What did they buy, right? And as a result of that, knowing that, hey, if I know that the lifetime value of my customer is X, which you can also get, and we help with a lot of that. But more so, if I say, hey, who are the highest people who spend the most amount of money with me across my brand, and what's the first product that they got? Right? Which got them familiar with our brand, which actually unlocked their spend with the rest of our brand. And which you have that data, imagine what you could do with that, right? That I would go after all growth and all need a brand acquisition with that Halo product, right? That and again, that Halo product being one that drives the most amount of sales across my catalog. So taking that lens to it, and applying that, then saying, well, that's one example of, well, I know this is what people really like or are willing to buy from me as the first product that they buy from my brand. Once they buy that, then I can actually start running campaigns and upsell them or cross sell them and increase their repeat, right? If I know the frequency of which they buy this product and they buy the next one or whatever it may be, I can start pushing ads towards them in that way, right? And targeting that group of people, right? And so
Okay.
with AMC, what you can create these segments, you can create what it's called audiences. You can look at exact audience types or similar or create lookalikes from that, and that can be, imagine your concentric circles. Like this is the exact set of customers who are the best lifetime value customers for me, right? Then you have like 5 concentric circles that spread away from that, and the further you are away from that, the broader that audience is. But I can create lookalikes to target shoppers and target shoppers based on that data set, right? And there's really only one other platform that I think knows more about us as shoppers than we even know about ourselves outside of Amazon, and I think it's Costco, and I think that's a separate little nugget there as well. But Amazon knows the most about what I'm buying, what I'm searching, what I'd like to buy, what I end up buying. It knows all of that, right? And so if I can create audiences based off of all of that data to then leverage that audience with my ads, right? That it's a whole nother world of opportunity. And you can do that, right? You can leverage audience against all your sponsored ads types. You can leverage audiences for all of DSP as well and target various aspects of the funnel, et cetera, et cetera. But the audiences now allow me to go after shoppers specifically. And target those shoppers specifically as well. Whereas before we would just go after keywords or go after the impression side of it too, right? But now if I can get in front of the shoppers that matter the most to me, that's the kind of power that we have available to us and the power that we're able to unlock. And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
AMC
it's
gives.
hey, really quick, enjoying these insights? Don't miss out on future episodes with more expert advice on how to grow your brand. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with Synapse sessions. We release new content every week to help your business succeed. Now back to the session. It's a huge difference from before. Yeah, I definitely get that. And like, well, so yeah, to focus it in a little more, like if you're talking specifically about Prime Day, what and planning for Prime Day, like what specific timeframes or signals should sellers be analyzing right now to prepare for that?
Yeah, I think the part of where you start thinking about it from Prime Day is going to be around the audiences, right? What are the audiences that we should create? What are the ones that we should look at and target while we're creating our Prime Day strategies, right? That a lot of what we do right now and a lot of how we think about Prime Day is that, okay, well, what are the ones that drive the most success for me? And I'm going to give that more budget for Prime Day because everything's that much more expensive, right? And it's a rudimentary approach towards it, but it's essentially the ethos of how we operate for Prime Day, right? That these are the products, these are the ones I want to push further. There's going to be deals on these products as well. I want to make sure these get in front of the right customers, right? And so with Amazon, with AMC and creating audiences, you start thinking about, okay, well, what are the types of audience? Like, and Nicholas, I might actually engage in this and say, I got answers for you, but let's work through this together
Mhm.
because we know customers and you and I are both shoppers and whatnot as well. What kind of audiences do I need to create to maximize my return on Prime Day, to maximize my efficiency, to maximize insert what I'm trying to do here, right? And so I'm going to I'll ask you this question, and if we go down this path, like when Prime Day is going to be in 2 weeks. Do
Right.
you buy in that lead up of those 2 weeks, or like what are you doing from a shopping standpoint? And I know you mentioned you actually you want to buy a few things coming up here as well. So what do you do in the 2 weeks leading up to Prime Day?
You're
As a
usually just
shopper?
you're usually just planning what I want to buy because I know
Yeah,
the deal's coming.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm window shopping, right?
Yep.
And a lot of and I think all of us see this to be true, and you've probably seen this from your end as well. That overall efficiency and traffic, and or rather, my ROAS, my ACOS, everything starts taking a bit of a dive the opposite way. 2 weeks leading up to that, my overall sales come down. All of that, right? We know that to be true as consumers and as shoppers as well. We window shop for 2 weeks to then say, what's going to happen on Prime Day? Is it going to be cheaper? Are the things that I added to my cart, are they in a better position for me to buy? Right? And you
Yeah.
know exactly what you're looking for. And so now if I know that, right? If I know that, that's one shopper behavior. And there's obviously the idea of making sure that you're getting in front of them during their consideration phase over those 2 weeks, leveraging your ads. But then if I know that and saying that, well, all the people that added to cart, and I'm not sure if you use this, but I do this for sure, that I essentially just add products to my cart that I'm waiting to see what the price is on Prime Day. That's just an easier way for me to track everything that I'm looking to buy, right? And that's a common behavior. I think we see a lot of that if you actually look at the data. So if I know that to be true, then why don't I create an audience that says everyone who added to cart for the last 60 days and make sure I target those from a DSP perspective or an sponsored display perspective, but target those across the placement types, right? Sponsored ads, sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored video, all the things to ring true. That because I know they're more likely they were window shopping at the time that I expect people to window shop. So now that the deals are up, first day on Prime Day, yeah, make sure we show our ads. I'm willing to pay a premium for those people that were curious about my product to convert,
Oh,
right?
for
So that's
sure.
an example of an audience that we already know this. This is not new for anybody. We know that people add to cart. We know that these things happen, right? We know shoppers shop that way. We all shop that way, right? But how do I target them specifically? And you within the absence of AMC, no, you wouldn't be able to do that, right?
Mm.
And so now you can. And so would you run a strategy like this? And anyone watching this would be like, yeah, that makes logical sense. I would run that strategy. They likely want to buy my product, right? So that's one example of like, okay, coming into Prime Day, leverage shoppers that have bought or rather added to cart in the last 30 days and didn't purchase, right?
Okay.
Um,
I
and
was
now when
going
I
to
tell
ask.
you that, or sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
was just saying, when I tell you that, what does that unlock for you? Are you like, hey man, that's actually a great strategy. I probably want to run something like that. Or are you like, oh, you're out to lunch. Find something else. Find someone else to talk about.
No, no, 100%. I mean, it would definitely be worth having a campaign specifically for that add to cart audience, for example. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. I was gonna say, just as an aside, that lead up, that window shopping period, what is the strategy to around that period where everything's dead? Like, what do you suggest there?
Yeah, I talked about this before, and I've talked about it in a few different ways. But oftentimes, when people are window shopping, and we see sales are down, ACOSs are higher, and ROASs are lower, and everyone kind of says like, okay, well, I'm not really performing well. Well, we know shopper behavior is that they're less likely to buy. But what we are trying to do is make sure we're part of the mind share, right? And so the lead up to Prime Day, how you market leading into Prime Day, your advertising into Prime Day. Oftentimes people come in and say, well, I drop spend because I'm going to spend so much more on Prime Day. That's not a bad strategy, not a bad angle, but are you actually getting in front of people who are window shopping, right? Because And what the goal and the KPI should be for the lead up to Prime Day isn't about direct tangible sales that you got. It's that, am I getting in front of shoppers? Am I getting more people coming in? Am I seeing that add to cart, right? And you can actually test a lot of that and measure a lot of that on AMC. Like, what was my add to cart over my window here versus my 2 week window here versus the 2 weeks before, when people are less likely or are more willing to buy, right? And so you can kind of start seeing a lot of that. But you should. I always believe, and I believe this to be true, that your advertising actually should be, you actually want to maintain, and as you come into Prime Day, you, again, same kind of thing, as you have deals or anything like that, you want to maintain that as well, because you don't want to lose the mind share. You don't want to lose they're going to look at your competitor's product because they're still running ads, and that was they're at the top of the list there, right? So,
Mhm.
or top of the sponsored. So from that standpoint, I always recommend maintaining your advertising, because you're gonna feel the burden of that a little bit later on, and you'll see the true impact of that actually on over Prime Day as well.
Okay, so really it might make more sense to just, maybe just not touch your ads through that period that kind of down period. Just leave them running. But then, yeah, you really want to be looking at a different metric as far as success.
Exactly.
And that's see if you're getting add to carts or
Exactly.
views, things like that.
Yeah. And
Impressions
right.
are still high.
That's it, right? And like, if we go with that new to brand strategy that I was talking about in terms of getting people in who are looking at that, let's assume they've never bought before. You can start testing and seeing if that ASIN is actually the one, right? Like, what is the timing of those? Where are people in their segments? If I know they saw a sponsored brand video first, then a sponsored product ad, and all of that, is that still reigning true? Is that path to purchase journey still playing out? If I know what that is, then that means I need to start and make sure those campaigns and getting people into that path to purchase earlier on in leading into Prime Day too, right? And so, like, if we say, okay, hey, this is the product that most people are going to drive the most amount of sales for me, and this is the product I'm going to go to market with and put my deal on, and I'm going to make sure that everybody who wants this will see it. I need to make sure that I know what are the lead up towards those purchase events, right? Because we live in a world of last touch attribution, right? What I mean by that is the campaign that got the sale is the one we say did well, right? The campaign that has lower ad sales, we say did badly, but it has a role to play within the overall journey a shopper takes. And before, we couldn't see any of this. We didn't actually know. We were like, okay, well, ads did sales good, ad did no sales bad. But we've all been there where we turned off of this ad and this ad actually got impacted even more, and we have no idea why, right? So making
Yeah.
sure your path to purchase, understanding your path to purchase, what is the journey of which a shopper sees those different ads, and overlaying that and making sure that plays out for you during Prime Day as well, it becomes equally as relevant.
Okay, so yeah, that's like where, you have the different ad types and then, like for example, more top of funnel like sponsored display or sponsored brand or even using DSP, for example. If you got to measure the effectiveness of those in a different way, right?
That's it, right? And we get into like a multi-touch attribution model, which I think is where we're really headed. But we start looking at the paths, right? That it's not just this campaign; it's campaign A, sponsored display campaign A, sponsored product campaign B, and that's where, based on seeing all those, that's where we're getting the most conversions from. Then I'm going to fuel that path, right? Not just fuel an individual campaign. I'm not just going to give money to the one that converts at the end. It's actually
Right.
all of those that play a role, right? So taking that a little higher there and leveraging AMC to understand that, right? And say, what is the highest converting path for me, right? And how do I, and again, we go into our Prime Day planning, say, I'm going to give this more money and this one more money. How do I give this path more money because it's the one that does the best? Right? And what's that
Okay.
time horizon? Do I need to start fueling the campaign at the top, at the beginning of that path, 7 days leading into Prime Day? Do I need to start doing it after? Like, what's that time horizon so you actually maximize the potential impact of what that path could be for you on Prime Day as well? And you couldn't do any of that without AMC. You can't even understand what that is without AMC, right? And so it's there's so many different worlds to take here. There's so many different ways. And AMC, if you know this about your shoppers, you could create whatever query you want, right? I could really I could really try and figure out what are the right audiences for me, right? That now we've talked about one that converts non-converted customers, right? People who are the window shoppers, right? And we know what they're looking at. We can look at even repeat buyers, right? So if I want to say people who buy my product and have bought my product multiple times before, right? Let me cross sell them, right? Let me actually start showing them those products and say, hey, it's on sale. Hey, you bought this before. It's actually, there's a deal going on for that, right? And I can create an audience and target that audience with complementary products as well, right? And even people who've recently bought. Think about people who are new to brand. If I know that when someone buys product A from me, then they buy product B and product C, which you can figure out through AMC, right? And anyone who needs help with any of these things, feel free to hit me up. I'll happily support the cause there as well. If any of this feels super foreign, happy to help. But if I know that after they buy product A, they buy product B, and then they buy product C, for Prime Day, I'm going to target all those people who most recently bought product A and show them product B, because I know that other shoppers have bought in this way, that that's their journey across my catalog and what they buy, right? So let's create an audience of recent new to brand customers and get them to become repeat customers through Prime Day and leveraging that second product they buy or that third product they buy and get that in front of them, right? And show them that, be willing to spend more towards that, right? And I think you and I would both agree on this, that at the end of the day, if I know that I can get in front of that shopper, I'd be willing to pay more for that than I am willing to pay when I go super broad, right?
Right.
I want to get, if
Yeah.
I know that shopper or it looks like my best shopper, I'm going to be willing to pay for that, right? And that's a lot of where you look at for sponsored product, sponsored brand video, irrespective of the impression based ones of SD and DSP. You actually, that's how you leverage it. It's like a placement modifier, right? I'm willing to pay more, X percentage more for top of search, 200%. With that audience
Right.
created, that you just add that onto the campaign, your keyword campaign, and say, what is my modifier that I'm willing to pay if this is the right shopper for me,
Right.
right?
Yeah, because I
And
was gonna say, like, with that data, you can be more confident about that decision to invest in those campaigns. Because, like, I just think about, if there is a seller that's watching this right now and they're like on a tighter budget, I think that's one of the biggest issues is like you you don't maybe you feel like I can't do sponsored brand or sponsored display because I'm not getting sales from it. So I guess this is where you can make it seem more worth it, or yeah, make them understand that it can be worth it.
yeah, absolutely, right? Because if I know now, I could take we could, well, I could slice and dice this a few different ways, but let's assume that we're going to keep the sponsored product keyword based approach going, right? Because that's where we see the most success from, right? And I have a limited budget. And so where am I going to go next with the limited budget, right? I know, assuming that we've solved from, like, let's go with the marketing funnel, we're actually covering our sponsored product from the bottom of the funnel all the way to the top. I can start leveraging audiences to say, well, I'm willing to pay more on top of that to make sure it's the right shopper for me, right? Like, I like to use this analogy all the time. Right now, the campaigns we run, even with a smaller budget, is sufficiently saying, if for let's go with the window shopping path here, it's sufficiently saying, put my product in that window X all the time, as much as I'm willing to pay for it, right? Now, what if I could control that? Hey, only put that product in that window when someone who is likely to be my shopper is in front of that window, right?
Okay.
Why would I not want to do that? I only
Right.
want people who could likely buy from me, not the general public, not everyone else. I don't care for everyone else. I only care for people who are more likely to be my shopper, the most likely ones to purchase, right? That just only show my product at that time. And you can create campaigns like that, right? Think about underbidding on your keyword, but putting a 400% multiplier if that person's my shopper, right? On that
Okay.
audience, right? So
Right. Yeah.
you can run strategies like that. So you become more efficient with your spend then too, because I'm only targeting people who are most likely to be my shopper. Um, and actually, let's play this out from a dollars and cents standpoint. When I want to do a top of funnel campaign and go after new to brand shoppers, I'm going to do a very broad keyword, right? Like, let's go with, I always like to use rugs. It's just a simple example here, right? So if I go to Target rugs, it's going to be super expensive for me. And the person searching rugs arguably doesn't even know they want which rug they want yet. They're just like kind of checking out the market. What does rugs look like?
Right.
In that world, whatever customers I acquire are going to be like, and Nicholas, what would you expect? Do you think the ACOS, what would be the ACOS on a campaign like that?
Just searching rugs is going to be pretty high. Yeah.
Pretty high, 70, 80%, right? Arguably even higher as well, right? So your ACOS is going to be higher. You're going to acquire less customers. You're going to acquire less loyal customers, right? Because you don't know if they're going to buy from you again. Any of those things remain true, right? And I've run this test numerous times at this point across different campaigns and different with different brands as well. And it's like, now if I take that keyword campaign, I add that audience multiplier on top of it, right? And say, okay, well, spend more when it's someone who matches my shoppers, matches or looks like my best shopper, right? A lookalike audience, right? It's my ACOS, and happy to share this with people. Anyone wants to reach out, but my ACOS officially dropped by half on that campaign, right? And so now, when initially what we're all willing to spend that top dollar and spend that 90% ACOS to go after a brand. If I could tell you that there's a way to acquire better customers, because again, they look very similar to my best customers, right? And do it for cheaper, who doesn't want that?
All right.
Right? Everyone does, right? So if my ACOS dropped by half, and in the campaign that I'm thinking about right now, the customer acquisition cost before was about $140. The customer acquisition cost when we added the audience on top of that was $54, right? And
Wow.
so where am I now? I got cheaper customers, and I got arguably ones that look like my best shoppers. I can now take that customers and target them with the next product and the next product and the next product, right? And so I've gotten people into my brand, right? And whenever we're going for new to brand, that's all we care about. How do I acquire as many shoppers as I possibly can for as cheap as I possibly can, right? Increase my lifetime value while decreasing my customer acquisition cost, right? And those are the metrics that we're always thinking about. And so when we start thinking about Prime Day as well, there's an opportunity for us to get new shoppers. When we start thinking about Prime Day, there's opportunity for us to get repeat purchases. When we start thinking about Prime Day, there's an opportunity for us to get an increased basket size, right? And AMC is the conduit towards all those things. Whereas right now we kind of just hope, it feels like. So
Right.
it's a really
Yeah.
interesting perspective. It's a really interesting time. It's a really interesting vehicle to be able to leverage. And I think that not a lot of people are
Yeah, for sure.
even thinking
Um,
about it.
y- yeah. I mean, so like how do people actually use AMC? Did how did they go about actually applying it to their campaigns right now?
Yeah, so in AMC, you can actually, a lot of it is queries. I always recommend, if you're not familiar with SQL, there are some easier ones. There are some IQs, instructional queries, within the AMC console. So step one is getting AMC. If you don't have it, hit me up. Happy to help you support the cause. I'm pretty sure there's an email address that you can email to get it. But Amazon is releasing it for everyone, and it will be within the console come June as well. But up until then, it arguably would be too late for Prime Day. But and so step one is getting that. Step two is saying, what are the instructional queries that exist that you can leverage those templates, so to speak, out of the box to create those audiences, right? And you can actually do that directly on the platform. And always recommend that when you're targeting new customers, or even, you always want to create audiences based off of your customers as well, right? People who look like that, right? Especially, and for Prime Day is probably one of the only parts and times I'll say go after people who didn't buy, right? Because we know they're intentionally not buying to wait for Prime Day. But in any other time of the year, if I create an audience of people who didn't buy, and I create a lookalike of that, I'm just getting more people who didn't buy, right? And so you can kind of see where those break. So how to leverage those? You get those instructional queries, you can create those audiences, and then in the ads console, you can actually say, use this audience and put your audience multiplier on that too, right? And that's the ads console approach towards it. There's a lot of technology providers, like even like Trellis, like us as Trellis, a lot of other ads players as well, that have created their own capacity on top of that, right? And so for us, we look at, you can create lookalike audiences off your Halo products. You can create the world's actually, there's a lot available to you, and making it a little bit easier, right? And that's one side of it, of actually utilizing audiences. So there's the creation, the utilization of, and applying that. The other side is the analysis that I can use, that I can do with all this data, right? What is the lifetime value of my customer? What is the lifetime value of a customer when they buy this product? What is my Halo rank? What is my customer acquisition cost? What is my new to brand versus my repeat? All things that are available in AMC, but just pulling it together in that way. And so with us, with Trellis, we often look at that new to brand data is all encompassing. There still is that organic side, and we actually look to group those together to give you a true LTV, not just a LTV based on ads, for example, or or let alone my new brand as a whole, not just the ones that were exposed to ads and that were exposed to ads, but also the ones that were unexposed to ads, right? And seeing what that is in aggregate for your catalog, but then your groupings of products, your collections, and individual products as well, which makes it really interesting. So,
Okay, so
two ways to go about it.
there is a way to do it. Sorry, there is a way to do it manually, but you could use something like Trellis to make the whole process a lot quicker and more simple. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, in terms of the audience creation, the ones that are high value, and also the analysis that you could take from that, right? The path to purchase, the our shopper insights, all of the, and and again, there's a lot more, but there's two parts to each part. There's two parts to AMC always is the ability to create, the ability to action, but then the ability to analyze and think about your catalog in ways that you haven't thought about it.
Okay, nice. Yeah, sounds like a great option.
Yeah, yeah. And so, Nicholas, if I were to ask you now, we've talked about AMC. I know that you're familiar with it. You're thinking about it. Have I shifted your perspective? Have I got you curious or intrigued to say, yes, I need to try AMC? You just started thinking about what that means for me and how it incorporates into Prime Days. Or talk to me. What do you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, not just Prime Day. It's like you have to look at it and leverage it for all aspects of your selling on Amazon, really. I also think about like even leveraging it to get deeper insight of maybe things you should optimize on your listings, or if you're seeing, you can get further insights on click-through rates and what they're clicking on and when and etc.
Yeah, it's like the conversion rates, right? Can impact a lot, and seeing like, so for example, um, with AMC, you could do something like, well, okay, if I could build or look at a group of people that have looked at three of my products within my catalog, added to cart, but didn't buy, and they've never bought from me before. It's like, okay, they're curious, right? There's enough curiosity there about what we're selling. Let me get in front of them and actually help push them over the edge to buy something from us, right? And so, to your point, there's a lot of data sets you can look at. Think about subscribe and save opportunities that are, what's my growth around that? How many people are coming in? Where are they falling out? Like, there's just like, there's so much you can like, and I think that's where it becomes really interesting, where like the world's your oyster, right? The possibilities are arguably endless as to how you could slice and dice this data. And when you start going down that path, it's saying we actually start allowing ourselves to differentiate, because the pain that exists today is that how we run strategies and advertising strategies as a whole on Amazon is actually we all do the same thing, right? We got our branded, we got our competitor, we have our generic, we have the way we like to set up campaigns, and it's kind of the entire industry's kind of matured right to that point and said, okay,
Mm,
this is the best way to run on if you're running an ads campaign or running a PPC strategy for a brand, right? And there's nuances across brands, and all of that remains true, but the core principles are the same. So now, if we think about it conceptually, if I'm brand A, you're brand B, we play in the same market, we're actually running the exact same strategies just against each other, right? And
yeah.
everyone's doing it. And that's what we do. That's literally the world of advertising today. Now, with audiences, you actually have the ability to create your own playbook off of my own shoppers, right? I'm brand A, you're brand B. Your shoppers and their behaviors against your catalog are different than mine. So now, if I
Mm,
can actually lean into that, and which I can now, and I can get that data, I can start creating my own playbooks, right? And create my own
okay.
go-to-market strategies, create ones that are unique to me, are unique to my shoppers, and are arguably, and not arguably, but are for factually shopper informed, right? How people engage with my product. My competitor can't do that. They can do it for themselves, but now all of a sudden we go to market with our own playbooks, with our own shopper playbooks to target the customers that I care about more or that you care about more, and vice versa, whatever it may be. It's the ability now that you have to differentiate, to be more competitive, to go to market more efficiently, to make more money, like to be more profitable. Like, whereas before we're all just doing the same thing. Right.
All
So
right.
the opportunity now is to create your own playbook. And this is actually, in my perspective, as we see the evolution of the industry and we see the how it's been going, that's how you start making more and more money again. That's how you start becoming profitable again. Is shifting into this world of leveraging the data that's available to you, your shopper data available to you, and informing your advertising strategies, right? Informing your go-to-market strategies. And so it's
Yeah.
it's it's cool stuff on the horizon, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, without that, it really did just seemed just rising cost per clicks, rising competition. It almost seems impossible looking at it outside of this new perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, that really is great stuff. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us.
Yeah, happy to. Happy to. I think it's the more people that hear about it, the more people that know about it, the more people will be able to do better for their businesses, do better for their brands. And I think AMC is the conduit and the vehicle we've all been waiting for. We just didn't know it was this. So we've seen the success of it. We've seen that how it's been able to drive success for brands as well, and even more so how the path of which it could play a strong role within Prime Day and the success of Prime Days as well. So for those that are watching this and thinking about it, if you're ever like, "Hey, do I really need AMC?" or "I don't think I need it," you do. You do. It's very much
Kind of
something that
do.
you need. It's very much what you should be thinking about. And if you don't, start learning. Start learning about it. Reach out to me. Reach out to Nicholas as well. Reach out to either of us. Happy to always chat about it and give that additional context and hear what's going on there.
Yeah. With that said, how should people reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of providing my own contact information. So LinkedIn is always one of the best ones. Hit me up on LinkedIn. And I'm ALI first name Ali, last name Babul, Babul. Or alternatively, Ali at gotrellis.com. So it's ALI at GOTRELLIS.com. Hit me up. Always happy to chat. Always happy to hear some of the pains there that exist and see if there's opportunities that maybe you're not thinking about. Or even if you want to learn something new and be like, oh, you said something. I don't know what that means for my brand. Always happy to chat.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I'll leave all that information down in the description below the video. And yeah, Ali, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your time.
Quite the same. Thanks for having me, Nick.